and welcome to another edition of Distance Ed Discussions, brought to you live from Studio FTC in J.C. Long 323. I'm your host, Amy Ostrom. Our guest today is from the Center for Disability Services. Please join me in welcoming the Director of Disability Services.
Hi, my name is Deborah Mihal, and I'm the Director of the Center for Disability Services at the College of Charleston. Our mission is to provide equal access to all programs and services at the College of Charleston for students with disabilities. And I'm here today to speak to you about web accessibility.
Thank you for coming and being a part of the Faculty Distance Education Readiness course. What we wanted to talk about today is that most people have heard of web accessibility, but what does that actually mean?
Sure. Web accessibility means that everyone, including people with disabilities, can use the web. Using the web includes the ability to perceive, understand, navigate, and interact with the web and to contribute to the web. Web accessibility benefits everyone, including older people with changing abilities due to aging. Web accessibility also includes all disabilities that affect access to the internet, including visual, auditory, physical, cognitive, and neurological disabilities. Millions of people have disabilities that affect their use of the web.
So it's my understanding that there are some laws as well as College of Charleston policies in place to protect web accessibility. What do those laws state?
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to paraphrase from Section 504 of the Rehab Act, Section 508 of the Rehab Act, which is the most relevant to web accessibility, and the College of Charleston's non-discrimination policy. Collectively, they say that students with disabilities must have equal access to all of the educational opportunities and benefits provided to all students. And all alternative media, particularly related to Internet content, must provide access to the benefits of technology in an equally effective and equally integrated manner. Students with disabilities must be afforded the opportunity to acquire the same information, engage in the same interactions, and enjoy the same services as anyone else, and must be able to access them with the same substantially equivalent use of ease.
So now that we know a little bit about web accessibility and what it is and where it comes from, why is it important and who does it really benefit?
Absolutely. It benefits everyone who participates in your course. It allows everyone to access this incredible course that you just worked so hard to develop, and it makes your course really interesting for people of all learning styles, emphasizing multimodal learning, which is fantastic. The web is such an essential resource for so many aspects of life, and for the college, the aspect that we primarily address is education. The web is used not only for receiving information, but also for educating and for interacting with society. Therefore, it's essential that the web be accessible in order to provide equal access and equal opportunity to people with disabilities. Indeed, the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities from 2006 recognizes web accessibility as a basic human right. Web accessibility also benefits people without disabilities. For example, a key principle of web accessibility is designing websites and software that are flexible to meet different user needs, preferences, and situations. This flexibility also benefits people without disabilities in certain situations, such as people who have a slow internet connection, people with temporary disabilities like a broken arm, and people with changing abilities due to aging.
So what kind of a population are we looking at locally? What's going on at the College of Charleston?
Absolutely. We have a growing population of students with disabilities, and at this point we have a minimum of 8.5% of our undergraduate student population as having disabilities. New legislation mandates that employers of our size aim to employ a minimum of 7% of our employees with disabilities, so that's our faculty and staff. And so to be socially responsible and fair, we need to address the needs of all consumers of our distance education products. Web accessibility benefits students with different learning styles, employees with different learning styles, people with older computer equipment, or people with low bandwidth internet connections. And increasing numbers of older students, faculty, and staff who may be experiencing age-related impairments also benefit from web accessibility, as I mentioned.
So as we get into the designing of our course and planning for our course, what are some of the principles to keep in mind for web accessibility?
The easy thing to remember is the acronym POUR, like pouring water. There's 4 principles that provide the foundation for web accessibility, and they are P for perceivable, O for operable, U for understandable, and R for robust. Each principle has guidelines with recommendations as to how to make it happen. They lay the foundation necessary for anyone to access and use web content. So anyone who wants to use the web must have content that is, number 1, perceivable. All of the information must be presentable to users in ways that they have the ability to comprehend. So it can't be invisible to all of their senses. For example, a way to make things perceivable would be to provide text alternatives for non-text content, or provide captions and alternatives for audio and video content. Also, make content adaptable and make it available to assistive technologies, and use sufficient contrast to make things easy to see and hear. Related to the operable principle, operable means user components and navigation cannot require interaction that a user is unable to perform. For example, making all functionality keyboard accessible. Give users enough time to read and use content. Do not use content that may cause seizures. And help users navigate and find content. Related to the understandable principle. Understandable means information and the operation cannot be beyond the user's comprehension. For example, make text readable and understandable. Make content appear and operate in predictable ways. And help users avoid and correct mistakes. And the last principle is for it to be robust, meaning content must be robust enough that it can be interpreted reliably by a wide variety of user agents, including assistive technologies. For example, maximize compatibility with current and future technologies, so that means keep up to date with what is out there trying to access your web content. If any of these 4 principles are not met, users with disabilities will not be able to use the web.
Those are some great suggestions as we look at starting to apply that POUR method into our courses. Could you maybe give us some more examples or some more tips that we could use when developing courses to make them fully accessible?
Sure. One of the main things is that every non-text element, visuals, pictures, diagrams, needs to have a text alternative, otherwise known as alt text, that provides an equivalent to that image content. All alt text should present the content and function, not necessarily a description of an image. So that's a big thing. You also need to be able to readily help users navigate to the content that they need. So there shouldn't be multiple clicks to try to get to a particular page on your website. And it's nice if you can provide a link that allows the user to skip over navigation to the main content in the page. Don't rely on color alone to convey meaning. The use of color can enhance comprehension, but don't use it solely to convey information. And especially be cautious of red and green color combinations. Another very important thing, particularly with the college, is to ensure that users can complete and submit all forms. So if you are using a form, you need to be sure to put form labels adjacent to or near the controls so that the labels are associated visually. Group similar elements like checkboxes or radio buttons together and clearly identify all of the required form elements. You should also back check to ensure that the form and the means by which you created the form are accessible and readable by screen reading technology. Absolutely, if you are providing a video, you need to be sure to caption it, and the college has access to a captioning program that you can use for free, and or you should provide transcripts for that video content. It's also nice if the page that you're using is readable when fonts are enlarged 150 to 200%.
Great, and I know that you've also provided the participants of this course with a plethora of other options to look at when they're trying to make their courses acceptable. If faculty members who are doing course development have any questions about it, or they'd like some more information about web accessibility, where would you suggest that they go?
Please contact Amy Ostrom from the Teaching, Learning, and Technology Center, and she can answer all of your questions related to accessibility of your distance education course.
Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you very much for having me.